on this episode of Just Informed Talk.
You can reassure people you're not looking for some kind of conflict in Iran.
Well, I'm the one that talks about these wars that are 19 years and people are just there. And don't kid yourself, you do have a military-industrial complex. They do like war.
As you just saw, President Trump calling out the military-industrial complex. That and much, much more out of his latest interview with Steve Hilton. You guys are going to want to stick around and check this out.
In 2016, you said, we're going to take care of everyone. Right. People heard that to mean you're for universal coverage.
Oh, no.
Is that what you mean by that?
No. We have 180 million people right now with great private insurance. We have some great, you can't take it away. These people want to take it away. You have tremendous private coverage where they're very happy. What I want to do is work at Obamacare is a disaster. I got rid of the individual mandate, which was the worst part of Obamacare. Frankly, except for the one gentleman who decided after campaigning for 8 years to repeal and replace, at 2 o'clock in the morning, he walked out on the floor and he went thumbs down.
Yeah.
We would have had health care repealed and replaced. But I'm doing it a different way. We got rid of the individual mandate as part of the tax cuts. That's the most important, very important thing. We are now coming up with a much better plan than Obamacare. If we take the House back, keep the Senate, keep the presidency, they will have phenomenal health care at a fraction of the cost.
And you're going to have a plan on that before the
We're
election.
going to put out a plan pretty soon, actually.
All right. Another one, drain the swamp. We talk about it all the time on our show.
Right.
Do you think you've done that?
I think I have, and I think one of the things that's been incredible is this witch hunt that's gone on. And I think it's going on right now, the draining of the swamp, because you look at people, they're running scared. These were bad people. We had tremendously bad people. The witch hunt was a hoax. It was, I appreciate what you've said about it. I never made a call to Russia during the Russia. If I went to Wisconsin or I went to Michigan, which I won, and both of them, I didn't call Russia for help, and everyone knew it. It was a con job, the whole thing. And it was started by some very bad people.
Can I just ask you something
on
Russia?
And that's part of draining the swamp.
I'm just really intrigued by, which is that you get hit the whole time for, you're being Putin's puppet and all the rest of it, okay? It's been reported this year that you personally authorized a cyber attack on Russia around the time of the midterms last year in order to stop them meddling in the midterm elections. Now, that's strong action. Is that true?
I'd rather not say that, but you can believe that the whole thing happened, and it happened during my administration.
But why don't you talk about that?
Because they don't like me to talk. Intelligence says, please don't talk intelligence. Sometimes intelligence is good, and sometimes you look at Comey, and you look at Brennan, and you look at Clapper, and I'm supposed to believe that intelligence. I never believe that intelligence.
But do you see what I'm saying, though? When people say, oh, he's just Putin's
You're
puppet,
right, but
in terms of what you've done.
Nobody's been tougher to Russia than me. Take a look at the pipeline, what I've done. Take a look at energy. Russia makes their money. They live off energy. What I've done with energy in this country, we're now the #1 in the world. That wouldn't have happened if Hillary got in or somebody else got in, probably even if another Republican got in. What we're doing, the plant that we approved yesterday, we got them approvals so fast. They've been trying for years to get it built, and we got approvals very quickly for the big LNG, $10 billion, the big LNG plant. What we've done in terms of energy, what we've done in terms of the military, what we've done in terms of Ukraine with, Obama used to give them pillows and blankets, and we gave them things that they can fight with. And I think Putin would be the first to say that he would have been much better off with Hillary Clinton as president than he is with Trump. We've been and by the way, by the unfake news media, because there's so much fake, it is disgraceful what's gone on with the media. But they admit that Trump has probably been the toughest president ever with respect to Russia.
On the swamp, there was one example of it that I just got so angry about, and we talked about it on the show, and you saw it too. Obama's head of cybersecurity then becomes a lobbyist on cybersecurity for Huawei. Yeah. And that's all perfectly above board. He declared it. There's nothing you can do about it. Don't you think that should just not be allowed? That you shouldn't be allowed to lobby for a foreign government in that way?
Well, I would be all for that. I think it should be a lifetime ban. Some people say 5 years. We're putting in for 5 years. But, it's very hard because the same people that are working in government, they work in government and then they go and they take these unbelievable jobs. That happens with me too. they're part of your campaign. All of a sudden, they're working with these big, and it's a very tough thing. There's a very fine line. But I would love to see a 5-year ban, but I'd actually like to see a lifetime ban. Look at Joe Biden.
But it's the lobbying for foreign governments. You see, the foreign governments, they have ambassadors and embassies. Why did they need these lobbyists?
I think it's a disgrace. Look at Joe Biden. He calls them and says, don't you dare prosecute if you don't fire this prosecutor. The prosecutor was after his son. And he said, if you fire the prosecutor, you'll be okay. Yeah. And if you don't fire the prosecutor, we're not giving you $2 billion in loan guarantees or whatever he was supposed to give. Can you imagine if I did that?
Well, I never mind that. Look at we've reported it, the relationship with China.
100%.
I mean, what's that? I call him Joe China.
If there's a reason...
Don't you think that should be investigated, that financial connection, the Chinese government putting billions of dollars into Biden family business?
100%. It's a disgrace. And then he says China's not a competitor of ours. China is a massive competitor of ours. They want to take over the world, okay? They have China 2020, they have 2025, right? China 25. That means that in 6 years now, I said to President Xi, that's very insulting because it's not going to happen. And it's very insulting to me. And you notice they don't use that anymore. They don't use it. It was very insulting to me because it's not going to happen, not with me. But with Biden, he says they're not a competitor. Then they take a lot of money from China. And I'll tell you what, if there's one reason outside of the normal reasons that the deal so far hasn't gone through, I think it will because they're getting killed with the tariffs. China's getting totally killed. I told you, companies are leaving massive amounts because of the tariffs. They're getting hurt badly. But if there's one reason that China, and you understand what I'm going to say, didn't make that deal, it's because they're hoping that in 16 months, Donald Trump will be defeated by any one of those Democrats, and they'll go back to making $500 billion a year. And I understand that. I mean, I could really, frankly understand, because it's not going to happen with me. What we're doing to China, I saw somebody this morning on one of the shows, actually, who I've never been a big fan, said that this is the first time in 50 years that anybody from the West has ever taken on China.
You mentioned just now watching someone on the morning shows. And that's one of the things you get hit for a lot, about how you do the job. They say he's up in the residence all morning watching TV, rage tweeting at Morning Joe. He's not focusing on the job. What's your response to that?
So I have way over 100 million people on the various things, much more than that, but over 100 million people between Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of it, right? It's a tremendous way to communicate for me because I have so many people. When people do a book, they beg me, please give me, because it goes to be a best-selling book. If there's somebody interesting, I like to watch it. I watch much less television. They like to make me look like I'm up early in the morning. Yeah. I'm in the Oval Office early. I leave late.
So it's not true when they say that you're up in the residence?
No. They do that as a form of disparagement. I was about 3 weeks ago with some very big businessmen, and I was in the Oval Office negotiating, and we have a small screen of television. And they noticed that they were saying, Donald Trump is up now, he's steaming, he's angry, he's up in the residence. I said, see that, folks, I'm in the Oval Office.
Right.
I'm a very calm person, too. They like to make me like I'm raging. I'm like the raging bull. I'm a raging person.
The tweets are a bit raging every now and again.
No, but sometimes you do that for a reason. I mean, the tweets seem to work. And, it's interesting.
No, I'm not knocking the tweets.
No, but I have so many politicians. Could you possibly tweet a certain bill is going to be voted on?
Right.
I've destroyed bills that were going to be voted on that were bad, and I've gotten bills passed that were good by using Twitter. And Twitter is really a typewriter for me. It's really not Twitter. Twitter goes on television. If they have breaking news, I'll tweet. I'll say, watch this, boom. I did the Golan Heights to Israel, and I put it out on Twitter. If I put out a news release, nobody's even going to see it. Today, Huawei. I put it out on Twitter. People say, that's not to build Twitter. That's to say that as soon as it goes out, it goes on television, it goes on Facebook, it goes all over the place, and it's instant. It really is, to me, it's a modern way.
But in terms of how you use your time, that's really what I was getting at. They say, well, he doesn't read his briefing books. He doesn't have these rigid 15-minute meetings. I'd just love to hear you talk about what is your approach to getting the job done. If it's not that traditional thing, how do you see it?
I read a lot. If I find somebody on television that I want to watch, I try and watch it because I feel you can learn a lot from a good interview with somebody for 10 or 15 minutes. I really do. I will read briefings. They like to disparage. They like to say, well, he doesn't read his briefing. Because I think I've done phenomenally if you look at my policy outside of the United States. I think maybe in certain ways, maybe that's going to be the strongest. Right now it's the economy. But I think maybe the strongest. Look, NATO is ripping us off. I got the NATO countries, we're defending them, to put up $100 billion more. And the Secretary General of NATO, Stoltenberg, great guy, he's my biggest fan. Because NATO was going down like this. It was going down, the funding. And now it went down. As soon as I got in, I raised $100 billion from NATO countries. Were they putting up? We're paying for it. We're paying for a large percentage. It's very unfair. We're treated unfairly throughout the world because we've had people that didn't protect our country. I'm protecting our country. But they like to disparage. They'll say, oh, he's up in his room when I'm in the office, or he's there. I don't think anybody works, and it's not work to me. I love doing it, so I'm not saying work. But I don't think anybody works the long hours that I work. I don't think anybody works as hard, but I don't consider it work because I love doing it. And you know why I love it, Steve? In this case, I used to love it. I used to love putting up buildings and doing what I did, or doing The Apprentice or whatever I was doing. And if you don't love it, by the way, you can never do it well. You know that because you love what you do. But I like it in this case because I'm doing a lot for people. I'm doing a lot for people. If you look at taxes have gone down, so many different changes. Look at the jobs.
Well, it's a specific example of that. I was just talking to the HHS Secretary, Alex Azar. He literally said to me, you're just on his case the whole time about prescription drug prices, phoning him on the detail. I think that's part of the story that people don't see.
And we had the first year in 51 years where drug prices came down this year. First time in 51 years. No. We're doing a lot of good for people. I mean, look at jobs. Look at the economy. I mean, people are making more money than they ever have. We have more people working today than ever worked in the history of the United States. No, I love what I'm doing.
There's another book coming out, Fire and Fury 2. I don't know what the title is. It's going to be all over again, all this kind of stuff. What do you make of that?
Well, I never even did an interview with these. I don't even know who the person is. I did an interview with that person. I mean, there are many books. Books come out every week. But I never even heard the book. You tell me now, I never did an interview with him other than years ago for a magazine, and he actually wrote a nice story about me. It's a big con job. It's really like the fake news. It's really terrible. I've had good books and bad books. But you tell me a book is coming out, they don't even interview me for the book. Nobody has done the job that we've done in the first 2.5 years of a presidency. Nobody's accomplished what we've accomplished. If you look at a list, so many different things, even right to try, where a person's very sick and they have the right now to use medicines that may or may not work, that we do. So many different things that we've done.
I want to read you something Lindsey Graham said.
Okay.
Your friend Lindsey Graham.
Yes.
He was in a magazine profile and he reported on a conversation he had with you, and he said that you said to him, the trouble with you, Lindsey, is you want to invade everywhere except the places I want to invade.
Well,
so my question is, where does he want to invade? But more importantly, where do you want to invade?
I want to invade if I have to economically. We've created a much stronger country economically than when I took it over. When I took it over, we were heading south. Our GDP would have been very negative. Regulations didn't allow you to do. Yesterday, as you probably saw, I was in Louisiana, opening up a $10 billion LNG plant that would have never been approved under another type of administration, never. And now you have 10,000 people working there, $10 billion they invested. We have tremendous power economically. If I can solve things economically, that's the way I want it.
So you can reassure people you're not looking for some kind of conflict in Iran?
Well, I'm the one that talks about these wars that are 19 years and people are just there. And don't kid yourself, you do have a military-industrial complex. They do like war. In Syria with the caliphate. So I wipe out 100% of the caliphate. That doesn't mean you're not going to have these crazy people going around blowing up stores and blowing up things. These are seriously ill people. I don't want to say, oh, they're wiped out, ISIS. But I wiped out 100% of the caliphate. I say, I want to bring our troops back home. The place went crazy. They want to keep, you have people here in Washington, they never want to leave. I say, you know what I'll do? I'll leave a couple of hundred soldiers behind. But if it was up to them, they'd bring thousands of soldiers in. Someday people will explain it.
Well, this is an example.
You do have a group, and they call it the military-industrial complex. They never want to leave. They always want to fight. No, I don't want to fight. But you do have situations like Iran. You can't let them have nuclear weapons. You just can't let that happen.
So that's an example, I think, of what people liked in 2016, where you didn't come over as a traditional Republican.
No, but
right?
I haven't changed.
And that.
Well, take a look.
That's what we talk about on our show, the popular. I just want to go through a couple of.
I gave the generals, I said, go ahead. You got 1 year. See what you can do in Afghanistan. So they fight and fight and fight. But, you know, we've taken it way down in Afghanistan. I don't know if you've seen that, Steve. We've taken it way down. Now, it's a rough place. It's a bad place. A lot of bad things happen. The World Trade Center bombers were sort of, that's like the Harvard University of terrorism, okay? If you want to be a terrorist, you go over there, okay? But no, I have not changed.
These and many other possibilities, each possibly promising in itself, may be suggested as the only way to the road we wish to travel. But each proposal must be weighed in the light of a broader consideration, the need to maintain balance in and among national programs. Balance between the private and the public economy. Balance between the cost and hoped-for advantages. Balance between the clearly necessary and the comfortably desirable. Balance between our essential requirements as a nation and the duties imposed by the nation upon the individual. Balance between actions of the moment and the national welfare of the future. Good judgment seeks balance and progress. Lack of it eventually finds imbalance and frustration. The record of many decades stands as proof that our people and their government have, in the main, understood these truths and have responded to them well in the face of threat and stress. But threats, new in kind or degree, constantly arise. Of these I mention two only. A vital element in keeping the peace is our military establishment. Our arms must be mighty, ready for instant action, so that no potential aggressor may be tempted to risk his own destruction. Our military organization today bears little relation to that known of any of my predecessors in peacetime, or indeed by the fighting men of World War II or Korea. Until the latest of our world conflicts, the United States had no armaments industry. American makers of plowshares could, with time and as required, make swords as well. But we can no longer risk emergency improvisation of national defense. We have been compelled to create a permanent armaments industry of vast proportions. Added to this, 3.5 million men and women are directly engaged in the defense establishment. We annually spend on military security alone more than the net income of all United States corporations. Now, this conjunction of an immense military establishment and a large arms industry is new in the American experience. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We recognize the imperative need for this development, yet we must not fail to comprehend its grave implications. Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our society. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
Ladies and gentlemen, The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.